Welcome back. It's been a while. Kyle, you have been traveling nonstop over the past month, and I'm glad you're finally back here so we can actually film another episode of Law Enforcement Today.
Yeah, it's good to be home for like 7 minutes. I see you wore your tuxedo jacket.
And I see you still can't match your shirt with your jacket.
Oh, no.
Or your hat.
There's a lot of matching going on right now. We've got the Border Patrol hat. We've got some straight up freedom here on set today. We actually just came back. We were in Arizona. This is Art Del Cueto, the president of the Border Patrol Union. This was the patch from his first uniform ever. Quite an honor to be featuring it. This big sign in the background is actually going to become a big map of America made up of patches. And so why don't we dive in, man? You see what's been going on at the border?
Yeah, you were down at the border and you kind of saw what exactly is going on, stuff that's not covered in the mainstream media. Talk to me about what you found.
So that's exactly the reason why we do the show. Not for the border, not for just one or two stories, but because there are a lot of images and stories that are not being shared by the mainstream media, and it's our responsibility to do so. We seek to bridge the gap between civilians and civil servants by taking on those topics. So, we're going to pop up on screen here. One is an image of the border that the mainstream media shows you. You can see right there the barbed wire and the wall going all the way down. Now let's put up an image of what they don't show you. That right there is an image of where the wall ends. And it turns into, at best, some barbed wire or some railroad ties. I don't care where, this isn't about politics. This has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with, Shay, do you lock your door every night?
Absolutely.
You lock your door because you want an extra measure of security. And that is what we need down at the border. Now, it doesn't matter what you and I think. It doesn't matter what politicians think. What matters is that we have men and women who are on the border who are the tip of the spear every single day protecting our nation. And they will tell you what a crisis we have out there. It is unbelievable. We travel to all different parts of Arizona. We head back out to Texas to feature the border crisis in Texas in a month or so. We've got a really porous border right now, and it is creating an existential threat to America, regardless of what the mainstream media tells you. And it's for two reasons. One, there have been more than 150 countries that have touched and come across our border this year alone. It's not just, they give the message that this is just innocent women and children. Well, one of the things that we saw is that, and there are groups that are coming across every night that are 200, 300, 400, 500 strong. There are kids that are coming across with a new person every single month because they are actually trafficking these kids in a very different way. The families are making $250 to $350 to rent out their 5-year-old kid to bring them across, because then there's the perception that that kid is coming across with his mom or his dad, and that's not the case. So they cross because of the Flores ruling. They're here for less than 3 weeks. They get sent back across. The family gets the money. The kid goes back again. And then we have people who are coming over from Serbia, Syria, Russia, China, all over the place. That there's zero vetting. And as we just saw we just saw people who were here legally, these Saudi nationals that opened up fire on the naval base in Pensacola. Mm-hmm. We've got a really big problem, and it is our job to address it through sharing these stories.
Not only that, but the Border Patrol agents, their job is to patrol that area. And if they can't do that effectively because of the lack of those physical barriers, and they constantly have to address people crossing over where they don't have any obstacles, for them to try to accomplish that mission that they've been tasked with without the resources, like a physical barrier, that's a tough job. And
here's what's crazy. So you have areas like the reservations out there where they're not allowed to touch, right? So you can have 495 pounds of weed in your car, and these guys aren't allowed to arrest you because of that, because it's under 500 pounds. We have these guys who are out there, most of them are on patrol solo. And backup for them, best case in a lot of cases, is an hour away. They are under-equipped, they are underpaid, they are understaffed, and yet we are politicizing them and making it out like they are the bad guys when they're really the last line of defense in a lot of cases. And you've got people who are sneaking back across the border time and time again who have been deported after committing violent crimes, felonies, murders here in the U.S., and they're killing again. So now we have, we just saw in California, we had another officer killed last month who was murdered by someone who was here illegally, who had a criminal record. So now we've got cops being targeted and attacked and killed because we refuse to shore up this border crisis.
Yeah, and you touched upon officers being killed and officers being shot at. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is what we've seen in recent weeks with the number of officers being killed in the line of duty responding to domestic violence.
Yep.
In Connecticut, we had a case where a gentleman took the life of 2 teenage children of his girlfriend. Senseless murder. In Houston, had the murder of a sergeant responding to a domestic violence call.
Yep.
I mean, these cases where officers are being shot at, officers are being attacked, responding to things like domestic violence, and officers at the border trying to do their job. There's just so much right now, so much opposition when it comes to law enforcement. And we see it on a large scale with the border, and we see it in small scale events with officers responding to domestic violence incidents. The attacks against police, attacks against Border Patrol agents, attacks against law enforcement officers across this country is getting ridiculous.
We shared a story this morning on Law Enforcement Today about how in 2019 to date we've had 115 officers killed in the line of duty. Now, obviously that doesn't include suicide. 115 killed in the line of duty, that is more than we lost U.S. soldiers in Iraq since 2011. Combined, 2012 to 2019, we've lost more officers in the line of duty this year. Now, that's not to minimize the sacrifices of the men and women who go overseas and serve. It's to provide context that there is a new battlefield, and it's right here in America. And we've had, one of the officers who was killed over the weekend, he was a decorated member of the U.S. Army. He was a veteran. He came back, and he was killed here on this new battlefield. We've got to do better. And Absolutely. We also shared a story, Concerns of Police Survivors. They help rebuild the lives of the shattered lives of families of officers killed in the line of duty. They shared a video for Giving Tuesday. It was all about how they operate and sharing the stories of fallen officers, paying tribute to their families. They went to put a budget behind it to make sure that more people saw it going into Giving Tuesday. Facebook rejected it. They said that it was discriminatory. There was not. We shared the entire transcript from it. There was nothing discriminatory about it. So law enforcement is facing a war on so many different fronts, from attacks on them to administration in some agencies. Thank God, not all. But we've got a big problem here.
Yeah, we do. So with us today, and I'm really interested to hear his story, Vinny Davis wrote a book about his experience through the 90s with a little bit of a hiccup in what we would consider a law enforcement career that was pretty decorated. And Vinny's going to come on and share his story with us, and we'll hear about the book that he's publishing to kind of bring to light the things he went through.
Vinny, is this a tuxedo jacket or is this a blazer?
No, I gotta say what's right, man. It's a blazer.
Come on.
It's an impressive jacket.
Go ahead.
It's a very impressive blazer.
You do the interview, whatever.
So we're here with Vinny Davis. Vinny Davis came out with a book. When did you start publishing this book? In November?
I wrote the book from federal prison in 1999 with a pencil this big. Sent it out to my dad, who copyrighted it for me. And then it's been back and forth on the shelf, and I finally got the rights to publish it because it was tied up in a legal battle with the movie producers who were going to make the movie. So the option just expired, and now I'm a published author.
Screeching Brakes. You wrote it from where?
Federal prison.
Oh, this is going to be good. So why don't we start there, man? Let's dive into your backstory. Who are you?
Always wanted to be a New York City cop. Father's a New York City cop. Took the test and I wound up assigned to Transit Division. Wasn't my number one choice, but I took to it, and before long I was an anti-crime cop, plainclothes cop, going out making arrests like crazy. Back in the 80s and the 90s, it wasn't difficult if you wanted to take the guns off the street and the robbers and the rapists and everything, and I managed to do that successfully. And out of nowhere, I wound up getting screwed over by the FBI and the Justice Department. And how that happened was my ex-wife, my wife at the time, so now my ex, had dated a really bad guy by the name of Richie Sable back in the 80s before she graduated high school. He went away for armed robbery in state prison when I had met her at the beach. And we hit it off and we wound up getting married. He got out of state prison. He was threatening to cut off her fingers, throw acid on her face. He abducted her with a shotgun. So lo and behold, a couple of years later, the FBI got him, credit card fraud and numerous other things. And he was put away in prison again for 12 years. When he came back out, he continued his nonsense, coming after us. And then he finally sold 2 kilos of cocaine to an undercover DEA agent in Georgia. They had notified my job. He's gone. He's out of your life. He's going to be doing 20 years. No more worries. And I was like, wow, this is just great. Thank God. They finally got him. Because he had threatened to kill 4 FBI agents and a judge in federal court and open court. So it was a good thing this guy was finally gone. 2 years later, I'm stopped at a traffic light in Yonkers where I lived. And I look out my peripheral vision, and he's sitting there. He's got a cigar in his mouth, and he holds up his fingers and goes like this to me in a BMW with another perp. And they take off. And I chased them. I couldn't catch them. I had an old Chevy Nova. I didn't have a BMW like they did, so I was really going nowhere with my Nova. And they got away. I came back. I notified the Yonkers police. I notified the NYPD, the transit police, the whole 9 yards. So they put extra protection on my house, and they were going to look into it. And my Sergeant Worsing at the time, who used to work with the FBI in New Rochelle, was getting in touch with the original case agent, John Truslow, to make sure that Sable's, where he is, what's going on. About a week later, I showed up at work, and my captain turns around and says, you got to give me your gun and your shield. We're going to put you on modified assignment and send you to see the psychiatrist. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, you obviously have a problem with this guy Sable, and you're hallucinating. I said, what are you talking about? I'm hallucinating. Nope. United States Attorney down in Georgia says he is carefully locked away in a cell for 20 years to life, and your officer has lost his mind. So I'm like, listen, Captain, you know me a long time. I'm a little bit of a party animal. I do my job. I know what I saw. This guy is out. They took my gun and shield anyway. Week later, my house burns down. I go back to the job. I'm like, you guys got to help me. You got to look into this. No, we told you. Federal government says he's in federal prison. That's where he is. And, and this was like pre-merge because we had the transit police and the NYPD and the housing police were all merging together. So here I am. I'm this decorated transit cop. But to the NYPD, they really didn't give 2 craps about me because I wasn't NYPD yet. I was transit. So in order for them to get rid of me and stop my nonsense, the FBI went to my job and said, we have a federal witness who says that Vinnie Davis gave him his gun and he fired it 7 times out the window of his car. Now, what happened was I did give this person a ride home from a bar because it was a really bad snowstorm. He talked about what kind of gun do I carry and so on and so forth. But one thing you never do as a cop is you never hand your gun over to anybody. Never. And I would never do that. But when he testified at my department trial, well, he didn't. He had an FBI agent testify, which those guys are like, God, yes, this happened. I got fired. I lost my job. I lost my pension. Hired an attorney to get it back. And it didn't come out until my federal trial when they put this guy Jerry on the stand. My lawyer said, so let me ask you, we had an FBI agent testify at Vinnie Davis's department trial that he gave you his gun and you fired it out the window of his car 7 or 8 times. Why don't you tell us about that? There's nothing to tell. No, please, tell us about that. Did it happen? No, I was posturing. So he says, posturing? You lied. So what? Well, he lost his job. He lost his pension. He had to hire lawyers. The PBA wouldn't back him anymore. You got him fired. So what? So long and short of it was I went through a trial. They dragged me out to Newark, New Jersey. Now, in the meantime, I never committed any crime, allegedly obstruction of justice, tampering with a witness, and these other charges. They were committed in New York, allegedly committed in New York, of which I never did any of them. but they dragged me out to Newark. They wanted me to take a plea. You'll do like no time. You're a cop. You don't want to do this. And I'm like, screw you. I didn't do anything. I'm not taking a plea. Well, put me on trial. And when you go on trial in federal court, party's over. So Lindsay Lohan, if you're listening, take the plea now and run for your life, or you're going to do 100 years. You're going to grow old in there with your husband. So I didn't take the plea. They put on a dog and pony show, lying witnesses. They took Jerry out of federal prison. He was doing 10 years. Richie Sable, the bad guy, was really out on the streets. And he was working, lo and behold, for United States Customs, who pulled him out of the state pen in Georgia, but didn't have the decency to notify the FBI or anyone else. At least that's what they're telling us. So I lost, spent 16 months in federal prison until the United States Court of Appeals, Third Circuit Court of Appeals, turned around and said, this reads like a Class B melodrama, and they ordered me immediately released. So then I went back before my federal judge, Judge Alfred J. Lechner. The next day he ordered me in, and he was yelling and screaming, what is he doing here? Why is he standing in front of me? And they said, AUSA Sierra said, to be honest, Your Honor, we have no idea. The decision hasn't come down yet. It's due out July 15th. But in the meantime, they ordered him released. He's released, and that was it. I was let go. The judge decided, no, he's not going to stand for this, so he's going to try me again. So he tried me a second time on the 2 remaining counts. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals says, if you're desperate to charge this man for these tampering with a witness charge now, because everything else was obstruction and a conspiracy to obstruct justice, but I never did any of these things. But they said, he was drunk in the bar when he was talking. You have to tell the jury, give them a jury instruction. He was drunk, and not only drunk, your own witnesses said he was ossified. He was drinking Absolute, straight Absolute, and he was drunk out of his mind. So therefore, that should negate anything that he said, and you're going to have to find him not guilty by intoxication. So I was found I was tried again. The second was 11-1 not guilty. There was a young African-American who did not like police officers, not one bit, and he walked up to the window between the 2 courthouses and pointed at me, and he goes, you're going to jail, I don't care what you did. So we got a hung jury on that case, and tried one more time, and third time was a charm. And that's when the story came out, because from there, the publicity was amazing. I was an 8-page cover story on New York Magazine. The newspapers were writing, is justice dumb as well as blind? Crazy articles about this whole thing. Why are you letting a guy he's murdered people? Why are you letting him out of jail to try to catch these other guys? And why are you letting one of the gangsters that's doing 13 years out after 3 years to put a cop in for an obstruction charge when he didn't obstruct anything? So it was just crazy, the craziest story. Nobody ever believes it.
You would think that would have all at that point been sort of fruit of the poison tree, no? I mean, once they found out that this guy was out, didn't that start that's unbelievable.
No, they hid it. The federal government hid it. And they covered the entire story up because this guy, Richie Sable, on a wiretap, was talking to the other bad guy, Jerry Vittorio, and he's like, just tell me who told you, and they're goofing around. He goes, it's an FBI agent. So now, listening on this wiretap, they're thinking they have a crooked FBI agent who's giving information to the mob. So it took until my birthday, February 18th, the next phone call conversation between them. He says, nah, it's a cop, and his name rhymes with Skinny Avis. And I'm like, oh boy, yeah, Vinnie Davis, that's a far stretch from Skinny Avis. So Richie Sable had known my name because he was dating my ex-wife back then. He knew I would do anything to see him behind bars where he belonged, so it wasn't a far stretch. And then Richie Sable turned around and said, see, I told you he was a crooked cop. And now, in the meantime, the FBI had sent all the agents, all the internal affairs agents from Washington, because they take this serious. I mean, really serious. You got a crooked FBI agent, that's bad. So they sent all these guys down to find out what was going on and who the crooked FBI agent is, and lo and behold, you got a transit cop.
So where are you with things now? Did you get your job back? Did you get your pension back? Is that dude in jail?
Okay, job back, pension back. No, we tried to get my job back. I was telling him earlier about this. Crazy. We went and filed, and the courts turned around and said, no, we can't give him his job back. And we were like, well, why? Well, the statute of limitation ran out for him to get his job back. And so my lawyer's argument was statute of limitation. He spent 16 months in prison. So you're telling us if he wrote a letter in crayon from a cell in federal prison, dear Commissioner Safer, my name's Vinnie Davis, and when I get out of federal prison in 4 years, I'd like my job back as a police officer. That would have stopped the clock? And they said, yeah, that would have stopped the clock, but you didn't do anything to try to get your job back in that time, so your statute of limitations is over. No job for you. Goodbye. Good luck.
Now, you were a decorated officer.
37 commendations for bravery from 3 different mayors and 2 governors.
And all of this spun from a personal connection with a bad dude who happens to, over a wire, speak of a crooked FBI agent, and we end up with an NYPD transit cop put in federal prison over.
Yeah.
Wow.
You get your pension back?
No. Got nothing. They took everything.
Did you sue?
I sued. You can't win. If I was to begin to tell you how many different immunities there are that I never knew about, like I was a real flag waver. You know, I would have given my life for anybody. The things that I've done, you know, delivering babies. I off duty, this poor people, their car was upside down and was on fire. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I worked 8 at night until 4 in the morning, and I'm driving home. Nobody's there. I see the car on fire. I pull over, pull this woman out, deliver her baby on the side of the road. There's a little baby now, a little girl named Vincente.
Oh, that's awesome.
Who's now in their 20s. And ran into another burning building in the Bronx, pulled 3 young children out before I collapsed in a fireman's arms. For all you cops listening, we're not firemen. Go do what you can. But the gases that you breathe in there, it's really not worth it. I was throwing up. I couldn't stop. Turns out that a frying pan, when it melts on the stove, lets out noxious gases.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bozo no to breathe that stuff in. You really don't want to breathe that in. So, but I believed in all of that, and I believed in, you know, if you did crimes, you should be punished. You should go to jail. And now I look at it, what Richie Sable did. He has a revolving door in the justice system. He should have been in for life. He's a predicate felon. He's, you know, you listen to this guy Jerry Vittorio, the other guy. He's out. He's talking about beating people with baseball bats. He talked about shooting somebody at the China Club. All these different acts of violence, but yet, okay, well, let's let him out because it was more fashionable to put a cop in jail than to put criminals in jail.
So how can people learn more? Buy the book?
It's now available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The Cop and the Stalker by Vinnie Davis. Listen, if you're thinking about being a cop, or you are a cop, or you're interested in being a cop, read this book. It's fact-based, it's interesting, it goes into all the commandeering New York City buses to save lives and doing things that would just totally get you excited about being a cop. But it also tells the human side about being a cop. And you can think that you're doing the right thing, but they will take you down in a New York minute. They will take your job, they'll take your pension, they will destroy your life, and you'll be left with nothing. So you might want to read it.
I know. It's just, Vinny, your story and what you brought to us today, and I'm sure what you wrote in your book, by far is going to open up a lot of eyes for exactly what an officer goes through. In your case, you know, you're an officer that was doing the job, doing everything they had to do, and got mixed up because of a personal connection that your now ex-wife had with a bad guy. And, you know, I appreciate you coming and sharing your story with us, and I can't wait to read your book. So thank you for coming out and talking to us. And
That's my book. You got to go buy your own. Amazon.
It's available on Amazon, so I got it. Yeah. But really, you know, in today's age, like right now, you know, law enforcement is in a unique spot. And I think your book probably brings to light a lot of the things that happened during that time frame in terms of, you're right, I think it is that. It's that, okay, we're going to go after a New York City transit officer for obstruction of justice. And that, to me, is probably something in people's minds that would make more headlines than putting away a guy that seriously has some problems in terms of the things that he's doing, trying to work with the FBI, the DEA, and all these federal organizations, and then having a New York City's cop name come up. I think that just, if somebody is looking to go after police officers and they have that one little inch, they're going to take that a mile.
I'll take it a step further. 5 years later, I'm at my house, and the phone rings, and it's like, Detective Davis? And I'm like, can I help you? This is Detective so-and-so from the Tampa Police Department in Florida. I said, so, hi, how are you? I would understand if you didn't want to talk to us because we know what you've gone through. I said, no, talk to you. I said, I'm still a brother, still a cop. Ground zero, I was down there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, digging through, looking for my friends. It's what we do. So the detective said, well, listen, we have, and I said, Richie Sable. And he said, yes. I said, yep, extortion, this, that, so on and so forth. Now, he had the audacity to throw your name out and said, you better be careful or you're going to end up like Vinnie Davis, because he went and pulled this crap and look what happened to him. So we're giving you a call to see if you know of anything. I said, the only thing I know is this. He's like a jellyfish. You're going to hold him in your hand, he's going to slip right through, and he's going to get away. And they said to me, no, mark my words, this is Tampa St. Pete. It does not happen like that down here. We have him on extortion, we have him on this, we have him on that. I said, I don't care if you have him for murdering a cop. He'll get out. But if there's anything I can do to assist you in any way, feel free, call me anytime you want. But I'd appreciate a phone call back and let me know if he's locked away. Got a phone call back 5 months later. You were absolutely right. In the middle of the night last night, he was taken and he's gone. So he's back out on the streets. He's out working for somebody else who doesn't know what's going on. And this is how it happens. And this is how innocent people get killed, because the government sees fit to let they're animals. You don't let an animal back out on the street, not when they've done it this many times, because they're just going to do it again. So he's out there somewhere. Hopefully he stays away from me.
Okay.
Very interesting. Listen, by all means, read the book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And Vinnie, thank you for coming out and talking to us about what you've gone through. And, I wish you the best.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thanks
so much, sir.
A real honor having Vinnie out here today. He's sort of like my spirit animal, a little bit crusty and salty in all the right ways. Vinnie, thanks for joining us, man. Guys, again, this was the first patch, a real honor to receive, that was on the first uniform of Art Del Cueto, president of the Border Patrol Union out in Arizona. It's going up on the brand new wall that we're building. We encourage you all to send out yours. And as always, we end this episode with the faces of the officers we've lost so far in the line of duty in 2019, set to Dave Ray's last call. Thanks all for watching. Thanks for sharing. God bless America.
Man down, I'm bleeding out. There's no time, so please hear me out. These are the last few words that I'd like to say to you all. This is my last call. Tell my wife I love her and that I won't be home tonight. Thank her for those long, hard years that we tried to get it right. And tell her I'll be waiting after she makes it through it all. This is my last call. But as ask her to forgive me. Tell her I'm sorry. That I can't be the man that she's gonna be. Tell her I'll be waiting where the winter meets the fall. This is my last call. And tell my children that I love them. Oh yeah, that daddy always loved them so. And tell them to hold their mother tight and to never let her go. And tell them I'll always be watching, looking over them through it all. This is my last call. But tell him to fight for me. Do what's right for me. Choose the light for me. Don't ever forget me. Tell them I'll always be watching, and I'll be there when they fall. This is my last call. For those who serve beside me and who held that thin blue line, I saved a few good lives, but I couldn't save my own. This is my last call.